this morning in support of the Racial Justice Act. They've been strong supporters from the very outset. When I filed this bill back in 2009, we had many people come together, those that were opposed to the death penalty, as well as those who supported the death penalty. But one thing they both had in common is that they wanted to make certain that if and when the death penalty was imposed in the state of North Carolina, that it was done free of racial bias and prejudice. They wanted to make sure that justice was imposed in our courtrooms. And of course, since that act has been passed, we have empirical data that's now come forward. It's strong, it's persuasive, it's convincing. We have a 200-page opinion from Judge Weeks down in Cumberland County, who's heard 4 of these cases now. And we also have a study from Michigan State University. What does it tell us? First of all, that if the defendant is black and the victim is white, it's 2.5 to 3 times more likely that the prosecutor will seek the death penalty and that the jury will impose the death penalty. What else do we have? Not just those statistics, but written notes by prosecutors, district attorneys, who spell out in explicit detail their strategy to prevail in these death penalty cases that show profound racial bias and prejudice. It's not just statistics. We know that the prosecutors in this state will systematically, one by one, strike African-American jurors from serving in these cases. And why do they do it? Because they believe that there are no African-Americans there, that they will more likely get a conviction. The problem is, that's not only immoral, it's unconstitutional. And we need to make certain that when and if the death penalty is ever imposed, it is free of racial bias and prejudice. It is absolutely morally reprehensible to see this legislation being attacked once again, particularly after last year when they came back and revised it. Last year they tried to undermine it. Last year they tried to tweak it in such a way, profound ways, to make it exceedingly unlikely that a judge, when he heard these cases, would decide in favor of those petitioners that were on death row. And you say, well, what's happened since last year? Judge Weeks has heard another case and determined that there was overwhelming evidence that these prosecutors in this state are excluding African Americans from serving on these juries. It's in his opinion. It's not just statistics. And we know one other thing if we look back. Since 1999, been 5 people on death row that have been exonerated. 5 people. I don't want to see people posthumously forgiven for crimes they may not have committed. We need to no further than a case that was in yesterday's News and Observer. Wrongfully convicted, freed after 17 years. Man accused of killing African American. Now, he was not on death row, but what if he had been on death row? What happens when that person on death row who's been denied for many, many years any participation in a potential crime, when we find through advances in scientific technology and DNA evidence that they were telling the truth? And the problem is, once they're executed, even the family and the friends frequently give up hope. There are no more cheerleaders. We as a state cannot, in the eyes of this overwhelming data, turn our backs on justice in our courtrooms. We must do all that we can to send a strong message to our prosecutors in this state that we will not tolerate bias, prejudice, or anything that's closely akin when it comes to these death penalty cases. We need to send that message loud and clear, because if we fail to, we have been remiss in our duties as public servants. And we will, in many respects, allow their conduct to continue. Judge Weeks' opinion, he speaks of the district attorneys holding conferences where they can educate their prosecutors in the state how to get around the Constitution and still exclude blacks from juries in North Carolina. It's in the judge's opinion. That's not the kind of conduct I expect of our prosecutors. They're there to uphold the law. They're there to make sure that when convictions occur, that it's based upon data that is appropriate in each particular case. And we cannot exploit prejudices in our state. We all want to one day become that colorblind society. We all want to one day know that each person is free and equal and equivalent in every respect. But we're not there today. And unfortunately, there are vestiges of racism, prejudice, and bias that exist within our community and in our state. We must purge those fears.